Nashville.
I didn't even hear the PK.
You didn't hear have you not looked at the Nashville Predators Twitter feed? Go look at it now.
We're live. Tell us what's going on. What's going on with the PK thing in Nashville?
Well, I actually saw Mike retweeted it because it was so precious. I had to go and like and retweet it myself.
Well, apparently.
Wait, I thought you were calling Mike precious. All right, go ahead, go on.
No, I would never do that.
Of course I am.
Okay.
But PK apparently he went to Nashville. I don't know if he's officially now moved there or whatever, but he made a stop at a famous watering hole in Nashville. I think it's called Tootsie's.
Yes,
yeah, I got video. I actually got video of it here.
Yeah, and he went on stage and sang a Johnny Cash song.
That's awesome.
There you go.
There's the video. All right, let's see. Let me go into that down. Nice.
Oh my God, Nashville's so lucky.
They won.
Yeah, he's a bad locker room guy. So let's trade.
Terrible. We'll talk about that, of course.
We'll talk about that. Yeah.
All right.
You were saying something about Pokemon. We have priorities here.
Yeah, Pokemon. So walking. There were a lot of water types down by the shore. It's pretty good. By the ocean, for sure, you get a lot more water types than I thought I'd get. But like I said before, some
What about the 2 people that got shot for entering somebody's house?
Here's the thing. Okay, now this is
stupid. That's what that is.
Anybody that's dumb. I mean, you don't knock on someone's door and say there's a Charmander in your backyard. You just don't do that, right? So, but the idea here is, I was telling people falling off cliffs and like that. If 5 million of people are doing anything, they're going to get injured. So, and the Pokemon Go is such a hot story. This is like clickbait. This is total clickbait altogether, right?
Falling off cliffs.
But no, here's the cool thing about Pokemon Go. So Jonathan and I went for a really long walk on Saturday and yesterday, and it was really cool because the areas where they have the Pokestops and the Pokemon gyms, which I can't believe I'm having this conversation as a 27-year-old right now. But
that's okay. I'm having it as a 48-year-old. So there you
go. What's really cool, the amount of people that congregate there.
Oh yeah.
It's such a nice gaming community where everyone's talking and somebody's like, oh, over there I found this guy, a Magikarp and stuff. So it's kind of cool to actually have people being nice to each other for once when they're playing games. And well, the only problem is that Jonathan and we're both very into this right now. And when I went to the grocery store, I had to pick up a couple things, and I went a roundabout way to go to a couple Pokestops, and he legitimately got mad at me for Pokemoning without him. He was very angry at me. He was like, "You cheated on me."
Tell him to turn in his man card right now. Seriously.
Well, that's the thing. It's I can't really get into Pokemon. I never really have been. Maybe I'm just a little too old for it.
Right.
So really, I didn't fall. But I am a complete nerd, as Zach knows. If a BB-8 was it was rolling down the street right now, I would probably run outside and chase it. Right. So yeah, I'm definitely a big nerd, and I understand the hype of this. It's just not something I really get into. I am more of instead of Pokestops, I would go look for beer that way.
Right.
I'll go find the great craft beers all over the place.
Well, it's just a big scavenger hunt. It could be we could be looking for old players or whatever. There's.
That's right. Yeah, if there were hockey cards that you could download at certain spots, I would be.
That's a great app idea because they have found
that's going to happen. That's going to happen.
Reality is really
a little intrusive. That's the thing. I mean, I'm not in favor of people shooting people who go into their backyards. Not that. But there you go. But not in front of businesses.
Well, now see, some businesses are taking advantage of it. I know, one of the breweries I go to, it's a real big Pokestop, and they're embracing.
Oh yeah, that's what you should do.
Buy the lures, and the lures attract some Pokemon.
Some businesses are not. Some businesses are saying you have to buy something. Don't stop in front of our store.
That's bad marketing. There's another place in New York City that is making a donut look like the Poke character that you can get at their donut shop, and it's it's the #1 selling donut there. That's smart marketing.
That's smart.
Take advantage of it. Don't say no to people.
Speaking of smart, I'm wearing this shirt because I live in a town where the Philadelphia Eagles reside, and they had a chance to draft a guy in their own backyard named Muhammad Wilkerson, played for Temple, local product in that regard. He played here. And they drafted this guy named Danny Watkins instead, who was from the Canadian Football League, and it was just an awful, awful pick, and the Jets re-signed Wilkerson. And I just say to Eagles fans, that's why you stink.
Right,
I'm not saying the Jets
the Jets have never made a bad first-round pick.
No, that's not what I'm saying, but I'm saying
no,
draft in your own backyard. I say that for hockey. I say that for all sports.
Don't fall in love. Just pick the best player. Don't fall in love where they are. Then you end up like the Canadians.
But Russ, the thing is, now that they signed Wilkerson, they've reallocated all this money, so now that they can sign your favorite quarterback.
Yeah.
Fitzpatrick.
All right, on that note, let's start the show.
But
There
no,
you go.
but Dan's right. You can't fall too much in love with it, but you can't ignore it. And I see teams even in hockey ignoring their own backyard sometimes.
Yes.
Hit
No,
the
they
bell.
do. There is definitely. I mean, this goes for everything. I think. Like when as a band growing up in the city of Philadelphia, which was a great place to be with a band, because it wasn't as hard to break into like New York or LA, but it was a big enough city that you could actually break through, right, and become popular in your city. You learn quickly that when we would travel to places like Boston or Chicago, they would be more into us because we were from away, And it's like when you're from a place, it's hard. It's sometimes you just don't think anything from where you are from could be awesome. That definitely exists, and there's no question. Like the whole English rock scene was they're great bands, but they were also from England. There was a cool thing about that, and that definitely happens. It's hard. And the difference on that I would say is. New York in a way, because New York does tend to back its own, like more than some people do.
Yeah.
Like if you're from New York, you got more than some cities. Like if you're from Philadelphia, this has, a New York band would come down from Philly and they would be huge because they're from New York, where, it was that kind of thing. Although it still doesn't mean that Billy Joel's anywhere near close to Springsteen. We're not going to talk about that today.
I spoke to other people offline about that, Heck, and you would find that you would get tremendous opposition right now.
Yeah, the cachet of being from New Jersey does not help Springsteen or Bon Jovi. They both.
Nah, I don't know. All right.
No, we're going back into this.
We're not going to go there. We're not going to go there.
I've worked with Bon Jovi, so I will refuse to comment.
Let's get into this. Let's get into this. Okay, here we go. The day is the 18th.
What's the order?
It's Monday. Me, Dan, Jillian, Russ.
There you go. Ding. Oh yeah. Remember, $1,000 gets you the Hockey Buzz bell. Patreon, $1,000 send you the Hockey Buzz bell. All right. Hello, Hockey World. It's Monday, the 18th of July, 2016.
I'm Michael Callow.
I'm Dan Petru.
I'm Jillian Fisher.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Eklund. You're watching the HockeyBuzzCast on HockeyBuzz.com now with Les Springsteen and Billy Joel talk. We are the podcast that comes to you every Monday through Friday to give you the hockey news, to fill you in on the comings and goings. I met some nice people last night at a party who were big Hockey Buzz fans. It was nice to meet you guys, and it was fun, and a great weekend at the shore too, where I was approached by a couple more Hockey Buzz people on the beach. So I like that too. It's good to see you guys. You can find the Hockey Buzz Go app where that'll lead you right to where Mike, Russ, Jillian, and Dan and I are at any time. And you can take it right there. So there you go.
Jesus.
Yeah, it might also lead you to trouble if you're tracking me.
Yeah, you don't want to track Dan too closely. A couple quick we had some quick hit news today. Then we're going to have a little fun at the end, where we're going to come up with today. This is just a teaser. We're going to come up with what we think. We're going to start a new game, the greatest of all time, and we're going to go by number. Okay, so we're going to go with the greatest number one of all time. We're starting with number one, of course, because it is the first number in the sequence of numbers. And
Is it 0 or 0?
Smart boss.
Thanks. 00 was worn by Marty Biron. We'll keep Marty Biron out of this. We'll officially give Marty Biron 00. He's allowed to have it, but we're going to start with number one. Number one's easy.
We should specify this means number one in hockey.
Number one in hockey only, yes, of course.
Right.
And,
so no Billy Martin cracks. No. Yeah.
So we're looking at a goalie. We're not talking about
No Garo Yepremian.
Yeah, some shortstop or whatever. We're talking about. There was this Philly shortstop that was number one, right? Manny Trio was number one. Was Manny Trio number one?
No, he wasn't number one.
He was 9.
I know he was the second baseman anyway. But anyway, all right, there you go. So, all right, let's start here with this story that Russia has acknowledged that Voinov is ineligible for the World Cup of Hockey.
Oh, look at that.
They've come out and said that, yes, despite the fact that we were going to bring him, we named him to the team, is a little bit of probably a protest on Russia's part, but of all the problems that Russia has right now, Russ, this is not the biggest one.
Yeah.
I guess, but we did talk about it. We were like, it definitely wasn't defiance, and I guess there must have been some conversations behind the scenes, like if you want to have a team in this tournament, he can't be on the team. So right. I'm glad that that's the case.
This is full proof that this is an NHL run event, because if this was primarily the IIHF, I think he probably would have played. If there's an Olympics, he's probably going to play.
Right.
Since it's an NHL run event, they're going to stick by their own ban of the player, and this opens up spots. I mean, the Russians aren't exactly deep on defense, but a guy like Nikita Zaitsev, the UFA who signed with the Leafs, 24 years old, he played on their World Championship team. He was sort of a borderline guy. Now with Voinov not being there, he's probably going to be in their top 6.
Do you think Provorov has a shot now, Russ?
No, I don't think they're going to put him on there. They're very much not about putting young guys on those teams. There's some sort of like backwards discrimination, like you have to earn your stripes in the Russian Hockey Federation. I never liked the way they did it that way. Every other country has gone the other way, where if there's a young player that's worth playing on that team, they put him on there, but it seems like Russia is always the last to do it.
Russ, who are their 3 goalies?
It's a good question.
Varlamov, obviously.
Varlamov is obviously the one, and then I don't even think Khudobin's on it. Hold on.
I'll look it up.
Okay.
So along these lines, we're talking about Russia today. They are now, under the gun in the international community for the Olympics, which the doping scandal has. I really saw an interesting documentary on the doping scandal the other day and how much of a messed up system that is. It's just insane. Yeah. It was on the John Oliver show. Watch the John Oliver show, the doping scandal segment on that. It's phenomenal. But yeah, so Voinov, it doesn't of course play into this. Probably, who knows? But he doesn't play into this. Obviously the Russian team that had to pull out. Now there's a big push that all the Russians going to the Olympics in Rio should have to pull out. I don't think that's going to happen, but it's What are your thoughts on this one?
I think it should happen because clearly this was a state-run program, as they like to term it, and we saw it with the under-18s, with the under-17 team having to go, except for the one guy in the CHL because he's in the CHL. How, at this late date, how is somebody going to be able to really prove their innocence and say, hey, I wasn't part of this? You really can't. I think you just got to shell the whole program.
I just feel bad for the athletes. I think there's the athletes didn't even know what they were doing. We talked to Provorov about it. They didn't know what they were doing. It's like, and I get it that there's no way.
You mean Rupstov, not Provorov.
Right, I'm sorry, Rupstov. Yes, right.
Rupstov was involved in it. Yeah.
Right, he didn't know. Right. But they had talked about it. Yeah, they didn't know what they were doing, and there has to be a point at which you have to give the little bit of the benefit of the doubt to these athletes who work so hard to get there. But yeah, I don't know how much this affects them now. Even like this is something they took a while ago. Is it performance enhancing forever? It doesn't seem like it would be something that would even affect them now. I think it's pretty tough. It's pretty hard for them to go on. It's hard to imagine that in the past we haven't had people from China or Germany that have been participated in the Olympics with worse stuff than this, right?
Believe me, the East German women, they were growing things that they shouldn't be growing, if you get my drift. The 3 goaltenders for Russia are Varlamov, Bobrovsky, and Vasilevsky.
Oh, okay.
Okay, you can't argue that.
That's pretty good. No, you can't argue.
I wonder who's the stars thing. I wonder if they go with Vasilevsky.
I think it'll be Bobrovsky for the reason that Russ said. They like to go with the most experienced guy.
But after Bobrovsky gets hurt, who
right. Then there's the first period and a half that Bobrovsky plays. What'll be and remember Varlamov was terrible in the Olympics last time, so
it was.
Here's the Russian defense: Emelin, Kulikov, Marchenko from the Red Wings, Markov, Orlov, and Zaitsev. So they're going to have to name another defenseman, but who is it?
My nickname for the Russian defense: Tee off. That's not a good defense.
That's not great.
It's not.
You're gonna need a good goalie because
Provorov could make it.
I think Provorov could make it too. Why not? If you look at that defense, it's like it's not like
it should be there. I think.
Not like you're keeping Sergei Gonchar home over him,
Yeah, but that's like remember how the team Sweden kept out the Swedish defenseman last time for the Olympics, which was insane. Hedman. Now Hedman's all. There is a certain European thing about that too, and it happens everywhere too. It doesn't.
Klingberg wasn't selected for Sweden.
Rick Nash is still on the Olympic team sometimes, so hey, it happens in Canada too.
But yeah, he's good. He's good in those events because it's the game's open and there's more room and
yeah.
He can go under the radar. There's no pressure on him.
Yeah, perhaps.
The next event like that, he'll become a Maple Leaf. But anyhow,
you had something to add here. I thought you said. Did you? I thought you started talking and I interrupted you. I felt bad. Sorry. So I was just going to say.
I don't think you did. No, I agree with I agree with the consensus here about Team Russia and the Olympics. I was going to say I don't have anything crazy or wild to add. They have a problem. They have a problem as a country. When you think of Russia, when you think of anything, soccer, Olympics, like the World Cup, people think of problems systemically with them. So
to me, the worst thing about the Meldonium scandal is that we won't get to see Maria Sharapova play tennis any longer.
I mean, but here's the thing. I mean, Sochi was in a beach town. It's too warm to have the Winter Olympics. Yep. They basically kept snow in a giant locker for like 3 years at whatever cost.
Yep.
They get what they get. You know what I mean? It's just the whole thing was boobery.
That was messed up, yeah.
Plus, they paid $50 billion for an Olympics.
Right.
I mean, the cost of the Olympics, that's a whole another issue, the cost of the Olympics. But when they have them in some of these countries, especially like when you think about Brazil or Russia, when they won their bids, people had them in the growth of economic, like when you talk about economic growth and countries that are on the up and up, Brazil and Russia it's the bricks and the pigs. So it was Brazil, Russia, India, China. And so everyone thought they were going on these great paths, and then corruption comes in. So that's what happens.
Places realize the Olympics don't make you money.
Right.
No, they don't.
But that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter because the people in charge get paid, and that's all that happens.
Right.
The IOC is about as fair and an honest and open as FIFA, and that's not a compliment.
Yeah, no. They're honest about their goals. Their goals are to probably get financial accoutrements and certain refreshments, if you get my drift.
They don't care. They don't care about the common people. I mean, we can talk about 6 hours about what could happen in Rio, and I have friends down there right now, and I have friends down there for 50 days, and their hotel's not even done yet. They're staying at other people's hotels because their hotels are still not done.
Type into Google like Lillehammer and see what happens to a place after the Olympics.
Yeah,
just do Beijing. Look at the abandoned buildings from Beijing. And when was that? Oh,
the worst one was in Yugoslavia, man. That was that was the one that really got.
There was a war after it, actually.
Yeah, I mean because I visited there when I was in Europe. It was just crazy, and I visited Lillehammer too. And afterwards, and we sat. It was a pretty cool moment. Like I sat in the middle of the stadium. Played piano in the middle of the Lillehammer Stadium. There was a music concert going on, and I just happened to pop by. There was nobody guarding this piano, so I went down to the piano. I played piano on this piano for a while in the opening ceremony stadium, and it was pretty cool. But you could see how it was falling apart around you. They were still trying to get events there and stuff like that, but it was kind of
the Beijing Stadium is now like a place for homeless people and like abandoned dogs.
Yeah.
It's only been like 8 years.
The funny thing is that places like Vancouver, where they held the Olympics in 2010, they've converted all the Olympic Village into condominiums. They got something out of it. I know that from that special on the 1980 Soviet team in Lake Placid, they converted it to a prison. So I mean,
there's really no difference if you think about it.
It was a natural transition.
Yeah, there.
Oh, I muted myself for a second there. So this is kind of PK Subban, Preds TV. This is fun. This was Preds TV put this out. I want to show you guys this. Really fun. This is a little bit. It's 76 minutes in Nashville. They called it. So I'm going to play a little bit of it. This is PK first of all is sporting the Apple Watch there. As he walks in, like that. So this is Tootsie's, the famous bar in Nashville.
We don't see it.
Yeah, there it is. There it is.
Okay, now we see it.
Are you not seeing it?
There we go.
Okay, yes.
Can't really hear anything though.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear it okay or no?
No, we can't hear it. We can't hear it.
It's the same thing I showed.
Yeah. That's okay.
I know you showed a little bit of this before. I just
get
thought
the
it was
idea.
kind of cool
PK knows exactly how to play it.
Yeah.
I just thought it was good. I mean, this is what I wanted to kind of why I wanted to show this for a second. This little introduction thing before he sings it's kind of funny. So, and then seeing him in a jersey for the first time. The reason I wanted to say this is just like I wrote an article today because I was pushed by a couple of Montreal Canadian players to write this article, and I know we've talked this out the wazoo, this PK Subban thing, but this is the last time I promise I will talk about it. But I just wanted to mention it briefly because some of the players are really pissed off about the way they've been characterized.
Oh yeah.
And this is like what's kind of interesting. I'm gonna stop this. Sorry. What's kind of interesting about this is you have, when the first second I heard this, when I started hearing all the reports about PK's locker room cancer, all these problems coming out of all the Canadian media, you think to yourself, okay, where is this coming from? Like, who would be talking about this? Like, the players aren't going to be saying this on his way out. Players rarely do that. I mean, you have to have, unless you're like Dan Carcillo, you're not going to be saying something like that on the way out the door. Like, players like these don't trash people. And in fact, some of the players were pretty adamant and telling me, this is crazy. Like, why are they saying that PK was a and when you listen to people in the media on XM or Sportsnet, they all acted like this was like so common, like knowledge. This was so definitive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it really, really pissed me off, and it pissed a lot of players off. And I said, I'm not going to write about it yet. And no one wanted to write about it. They're like, listen, we don't want to be the next one on the bus out of here. So they were all like, no, we don't want to bring up our names. But we also want to defend our teammate, because even though the guy's been moved, it's like this guy, he had our backs. PK was the kind of teammate that had their backs. He respected them. They respected him. I mean, there were issues in the room, but like no different than any issue that would happen with any player. Like they said, PK last year was really pissed off at the way the team was playing. That's not surprising. Montreal sucked last year, right?
Right.
And he's a leader of the team, and he hates to lose, and he's going out there, and he's, and I know he said to some of the media sometimes, he's like, yeah, I wish we had more talent to play with, and that comes off in a weird way when you say that, obviously. But it was really more in passing than it was, and it was really more about like not just not slamming his teammates, but slamming the management, and stuff like that.
It was kind of true, though, right? Like,
obviously it was, right, in retrospect. So. And and he's not a guy who's gonna sugarcoat stuff. PK is what he is, right? And he's out there and he's saying what he wants to say. But the players on his team had no issue with this. The players on his team totally respect the guy, and they're really pissed off that they're being sold like this, like they were some kind of witch hunt by the players to get him out of there. When obviously the only people who would talk about a PK Subban problem in the locker room would not be the players; it would be the management and the coaching, right? That's what's happening. I've talked to some of these guys, and the media, they swear by it. I've talked to some media people I really respect, and they swear by the fact that PK was the problem there. I'm like, well, who told you that? Well, this guy and this guy, and they were all coaches or trainers or things like that, right? And I'm like, well, what about the players? What players telling you that, even off the record? And no one really. And I'm like, well, what?
If a player isn't matching up with what the coach's mission is or the management's mission is, then that technically isn't in the locker room, because if he's beating this one drum in the locker room to all the players, that is a problem if you're the coach of the management.
Well, yeah, it is, but that's not what happened here. Like this is not the case of Therrien saying play a defensive style and PK saying we're not going to play a defensive style. This is like the case of him every time something. Teams are publicists for their players, and they back behind the scenes. This happens all the time. They help them get endorsement deals. In PK's case, back before the Sochi Olympics, all the teams would basically make their pitches for players and they totally sold Subban out. They said, he's not good enough to be on the Olympic team, and this got back to him, and he was really upset about it. But he still played through it. He's fine. He's like, okay, that's fine. And then of course last year we heard the stuff where PK's not working hard enough and all this stuff. Despite the fact they're still playing him 45 minutes a game, right?
Yeah.
He's like they hate him, but they can't get him off the ice. So it's like the bottom line is this is coming from coaches, and what happens is none of the coaches are going on the record about this either. This is the coaches and sitting there saying, okay, off the record, players had a problem with him in the locker room, and enough people say off the record to you as a reporter, and eventually it's acceptable because like 12 people told you off the record, so you can say, okay, you're not going to quote anybody, but you can say, okay, he was a problem in the locker room. This was a really concerted effort to ease the pain of this trade by doing this, is what I feel.
But here's one thing that was on the record. We all heard it, and I guess now it carries more weight when basically Therrien said after a February loss, it was a selfish play that cost us the game, meaning by Subban. The team worked hard, so he's basically saying he didn't work hard.
Right.
We deserved a better result. It's too bad an individual mistake cost us game late in the game.
When is that ever true in hockey? Ever. Ever.
He really went out of his way to
That's going out of your way. I mean that's a passive aggressive.
Yeah, and it's like the weird thing is with the relationship between Subban and the Canadians, it seems like he was always the scapegoat. You would never see it when they had goalies that couldn't stop a beach ball. Their goalies never got thrown under the bus. When Mike Condon was struggling, when Scrivens didn't work out there, anyone not named Carey Price, they never got thrown under the bus. The rest of that defense, which is embarrassing, never got thrown out of the bus. The forwards couldn't do anything. They couldn't score any goals once Gallagher and Pacioretty were all banged up. It's like no one got the blame but Subban, and that's just it's irritating.
It really is.
That's irritating, but also the fact that, and I've said it for years, is that, and Subban said it walking out the door in Montreal afterward. When he said when he was told he was going to Nashville, one of the first things he said to the media was, "Well, I think I have a better chance of winning a Stanley Cup now," because that team has never built up their depth besides Subban and Price. They were wholly dependent on those two guys. And once Price went, people don't remember, that team was the best team in the NHL until Price went down. And then they were the worst team in the NHL for that entire rest of the season. And I'm sure, management probably had problems with them. We know Therrien had problems with them. And they probably said to themselves, well, we can be the worst team without him, so why not get rid of him?
One prominent player said this to me, and I thought this was really appropriate and apt. He said to me, he says management's allowed to make these calls. He says we got a great player in return, all good. Why spread the lies about PK in the room? Why not just say we wanted more of what Shea Webb brought? I'm not saying Shea is better than PK, but I'm saying they could have sold this a different way and been 100% above board about it.
Yep.
Instead, they had to, and the part of this comes from the idea of the Canadians fans, and the deep admiration of PK and their fear of what would happen, right? So that was a big. So they knew that they had to, and because Canadian fans do love their players on a really intimate, deep level that is, that I've seen more so I think than any other city, and they really do have a problem sometimes. They don't want to trade guys. They always overvalue their players versus others.
No matter what the Canadians do in this situation, this trade was a PR disaster. Now the thing is, it can be recouped, it can be changed over. Once they start playing and people see Shea Weber on the ice, then I think the hurt will dissipate a bit. But it is a PR disaster because Subban was the most popular player. He was loved by the fans, and this campaign that's going on. I mean, I don't think it helps the players that are there, because all you're doing is turning the fan base against guys. I don't know who to talk to, but I'm saying the leaders of that team, if they're perceived as being against Subban, then all of a sudden the fans are going to turn against them because they're going to perceive those guys were the reasons why Subban was traded.
Right. There you go. Right. So,
and you know what? This in the long run, though, for Subban himself, I think this is going to be great for him. He's out of that. He's out of that microscope. He's out of that vacuum. He's going to go to Nashville. He's going to be a rock star. He is going to grow the game in Nashville and make a difference outside of the rink there more than you can do in Montreal. Montreal, the game's already grown. I think he is really going to grow the game in Nashville, and it's going to be a great move. It's a great move for Nashville. The PR people are going to go to the game to see PK Subban, and they've never had anyone like that in Nashville, despite all the great players that have come through there. Not a disrespect to Shea Weber, he's a Hall of Famer, but this guy has the personality, and it's a city full of personality, and I just think it's going to be a really good match.
Well, he'll be a country star, not a rock star, but
I completely agree.
There's rock music in Nashville too.
I know.
Yeah. There's all kinds of music in Nashville. Okay, so we also have a story going on about Nassau Coliseum. So this is right up Dan's alley here, and this is I saw several games at Nassau Coliseum. I love the building. I love the arena. I mean, I even like the media, the press box with the little flip up tabletops, that you'd have as a high school kid, and the first place that really served hot dogs on a regular basis to the media, which is awesome. But this is a story that's coming out now that a local reporter I guess a radio guy, right, says he believes that the Islanders will return to Nassau Coliseum eventually. Dan, you don't think so?
Well, first of all, before we do this, I mean, I wish these people would just call me or something. Seriously, just do a little research. First thing you do with any story is you follow the money. You just follow the money. Let's start right there. Right. As long as Barclays is still promising $40 to $50 million to the team, they're not going anywhere. The Islanders made more money than they ever did in their history last year in Brooklyn. Yeah. Because of that, because of the deal they have with Barclays. Now, deals change, things change over years, but right now they're making money, and they're making a lot of money, so they're not going anywhere. I mean, and also I think too is people like wax poetic on the Coliseum, like this revisionist history that it was a great arena, but something might fall on you when you were there. You might get a asbestos. You might come out with throat cancer, okay? So let's not pretend that it was like the Roman Coliseum. You know, let's be realistic. But this idea of the Islanders coming back there or even playing games there was thrown by Bruce Ratner, who bought the Coliseum. It was thrown out by the politician Ed Mangino, and they're lying to people. And unfortunately, there are some people here. I realize being Long Island, there is just a refusal of change. People like the way things are here, and they don't like any kind of change. It's probably why the Islanders left. But it's like, guys, they're not coming back. Stop dreaming. It is what it is.
I'll say this.
The money's in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
I was asked about it just yesterday, and my feeling was, even if this clause really exists when the Coliseum's built, that they have signed a deal to play 6 games there, and the only one who could nix the deal is the NHL. There's a couple things. First thing is, they're not an NHL arena. They're only going to have 13,000 seats. So that's the first thing that would nix the deal for the NHL pretty much out of the gate. The second thing is, why in the world would a new owner want to let people go 6 games out there, which means they'll never go to the Barclays Center? Like, that's it. There will be X amount of people that will go there for those games and no other games. Why would I want to do that?
Russ, that's a great point, because Ledecky spoke to the media and the fans last week, and they said nothing about those 6 games. He's like, no, I never made that deal. That deal is not with the Islanders. That's the deal that other people have talked. That's not a real deal. Now, I could see exhibition games being there. I could see you having 1 or 2 exhibition games, and training camp is going to be at Twin Rinks, which is right down the street from the Coliseum. That's great, too. But here's the thing that Ledecky said, too. Not only are the Islanders not going back there, they're not moving their AHL team there either. They're making money in Bridgeport. So why would they move from Bridgeport? They're staying right there.
Yeah, and I think that it's good that they're doing that, because otherwise, look, I grew up on the island. I watched that place being built, and I watched it decay over the years. I still loved the last game I went to, Islanders-Rangers, but only because it was Islanders-Rangers. When I walked around the arena, I was never so jammed up in my life. Like, those narrow hallways were ridiculous. But at the end of the day, people always want to wax poetic, and people didn't show up enough to keep the team there. That's the reality.
Well, the one thing Ledecky said on Thursday to season ticket holders in a Q&A was that, because somebody apparently asked him about Tavares being a free agent at the end of the 2017-18 season, and he basically said, John Tavares will not be a free agent. So for all those Leaf fans out there who are dreaming of John Tavares in blue and white, it's not happening.
Although it's still up to John Tavares. It's really not up to ownership.
I agree, but
I tend to agree with it, too. At least he's willing to pay.
Right.
No, I agree with that. I mean, listen. I mean, I can understand why Islanders fans hate the fact that it's moved. I totally get it. I mean, I know the community is really, people who are from Long Island are from Long Island. I get that this is their team, and it sucks that it moved. But the reality is, I mean, they tried for such a long time.
They blame the politicians, not the team. They tried
so much further away. It could have been somewhere. When I went to the game, I know I talked to Dan about this when I did the podcast with him. A lot of them are grateful that it's just a train ride away. It could be a flight away. It could be across the country. That team could have moved so much further. It sucks, yes, and a lot of them have acknowledged that it's not the ideal situation, but at least they can still get to call them their home, that team, their home team. There are a lot of people who lose their teams. I mean, it happens in the NHL, NBA, every league has this problem, so that move is relatively calm compared to some.
Yeah, here's the one thing I don't think people realize, and my dad did this for over 30 years. So, like, when you live on the island, if you commute to the city, let's say, you get used to that commute, right? And it's a grind. Yeah. It's only an hour and something minute train ride. So now when you're asking people to go an extra half hour on a weekday, when instead of, now you're adding an extra hour onto their trip, they get home later. It's one of those things where, to some people, that's intolerable, even though to the most people, it's not.
Ledecky did say that they added more trains for the playoffs, a lot more direct trains going right from Barclays, where you don't have to transfer in Jamaica. And he says he's going to work with the LIRR to make that standard for the entire season too.
That would be great.
From Babylon Station, a direct train to Barclays is 55 minutes, I think, 50 minutes. It's fine. It's great.
And honestly, people of Long Island only have themselves to blame, because how many overtures were there made to get the Nassau Coliseum either rebuilt or the Lighthouse Project or anything else?
There were 6 projects, I believe, that were proposed.
Yeah, and every time it got voted down or something happened that they had to go to Barclays because financially it made too much sense. So they only have themselves to blame.
Yeah, they do.
I think that's harsh. Real quick, I think that's harsh.
That's a little harsh, yes. But to be fair, the politicians that kept this from happening are the politicians that were reelected by the masses of these counties year after year after year after year.
That's what I mean. But the problem is, with the taxes so high there, the minute people heard they were going to have to pay a dime more, they weren't going to do it. They're the second highest.
The taxes went up more since they left.
I know, and they're the second highest tax county in the country. I get it.
Right.
And that's what the problem is. But it's still, in the last 10 years, not enough people showed up. That is a reality.
Yep. Oh yeah, no, that's the total reality. Okay, so we're gonna do something kind of fun here.
Well, can we?
You can talk about. Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to touch. We need to touch on the contracts that were signed over the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I thought we did a little bit, but no, we didn't. You're right. So let's go into. So Jamie Benn, it was interesting because we talked about him last show about his injury and everything like that, and he signed a big contract. So go ahead, Mike. He signs a pretty big contract.
He signed a max 8-year deal at $9.5 million, which makes him the 5th highest paid player in the league, a little behind Ovechkin. So I mean, it sounds like they signed off on the surgery, but at the same time that they signed off on the contract, which makes sense. But just like we were talking with Tavares, a year before he becomes a UFA, July 1st he could sign the new deal. Only a couple weeks into July they sign him to the extension, so he's locked up. And then the Jaden Schwartz deal, I think we talked about on Friday, which was 5 years, $5.3 million. A 24-year-old guy who now signed almost through the age of 30. And the one that was the most surprising was the Alex Killorn deal. Was 7 years at I think it was 4.45.
Yeah, 4.45.
Yeah, now the thing is, it's like, okay, they've locked up Stamkos for 8 years. They've locked up Hedman for 8 years. They're probably going to lock up Kucherov long term, and now they've locked up Killorn. I mean, Killorn was a guy I thought they'd try to go bridge deal, but they got a favorable amount, and they locked him up. So I mean, Tampa's going all in right now.
Tampa? They've gotten a lot of favorable deals.
They have.
Tampa's a great city, man, and
people want to live there, and it's a good team. It helps. It helps have a good team.
All right, so here's the thing, though.
Taxes, right, Dan? The taxes.
The first thing I'll say about Ben is I think Dallas did something smart in the sense that if they were going to sort of wait out to see how Jamie Benn was after surgery and he won the scoring title, then he'd cost a lot more money. So they definitely banked on that. The second one is I'm going to sort of look at the Alex Killorn deal in a similar way that I look to the Rick DiPietro deal. And don't go crazy, Dan, the reason I'm looking at it that way is not because of risk of injury, but just because Alex Killorn has really not put up a major amount of points. Right. And 5 years down the road, I think they're going to really regret it. They might regret it more than 5 years. This is a guy who's never scored more than 41 points in a season, and now you've locked him up for this long length. I don't care
what's his cap hit?
4.45, I believe.
Which, I get. Hey, it's not that much money. It's a great. You know what? It's not that much money until everybody's close to the cap and 1 year, and all of a sudden you can't trade a guy because his production stinks. I think that could happen down the road with Killorn.
Yeah, this is a team with a ton of players to sign. And what's happening now is the rumors are going to launch again, and like now again, hearing more about Ben Bishop to Dallas. Dallas trying to move Niemi and a prospect to another team. This is what I keep hearing, that and they'll bring in Ben Bishop. So this does put Tampa in a situation where they kind of have to make a deal. They kind of have to make a trade this summer, I think. And some people are saying that they feel like that this is definitely has to happen. But we'll see. I think we've got some time to go on that, but I do like what Yzerman's doing here. He's jumping on the fact that the team's winning right now, and he can get these guys at a little bit less. And also, like you say, the taxes in Florida. Who doesn't want to live in Tampa? It's all. I mean, it's not a bad scene for them.
And Mike, you were right. It's 4.45.
Yeah, and one of the things. I mean, first of all, and this continues my. Thank you, Julian. Continues my.
I wasn't fact-checking for the record. I was fact-checking the Killorn deal.
Oh, okay.
But for that crap, you all are getting Snapchatted right now. Look out, everybody. It's coming.
I really need to look like a dog face or something like that.
You're going to get something back.
The one thing that this does is to me, it continues my thought process that the era of free agency is dead, because now you've got all these players at 23, 24, 25, 26 years old being locked up on 7- and 8-year deals, and by the time they become free agents in their early 30s, the bulk of their career is over with, but their effectiveness is significantly lower. So you've got that. Plus, most of these contracts, Lucic, Jamie Benn, a couple other ones, heavy signing bonuses. They're buyout proof. You cannot buy them out because there's no cap relief. So teams are really painting themselves into a corner with these guys.
Mike, I think what teams are doing is it's actually similar. This is happening a lot in soccer. Teams are playing for guys and they're paying for guys in their 20s. I'm going to pay for your 20s, and then whatever happens when you hit 30 happens. I want you from 23 to 29.
We have a trade.
Oh,
we do.
Ottawa Senators and New York Rangers. The Rangers have acquired Mika Zibanejad and a 2018 second-round pick from Ottawa for Derek Brassard and a 2018 seventh-round pick.
Wow.
According to the
All
Rangers.
right, so say the picks again, because that's the part that's not registering.
Zibanejad and a second in 2018 from Ottawa for Derek Brassard and we just lost that. For Derek Brassard and a 2018 seventh-round pick.
Be Snapchatted.
Okay. So what I think about this deal is I have to really like it for what the Rangers did. We kept looking at a lot of other guys to clear cap space, right? And we didn't know how they were going to do it. And Derek Brassard, I always felt could never get beyond 50, 55 points, and he had like 60, I think, last year, maybe a few more. And so, you know what? I think they got max value for Derek Brassard. Zibanejad has become a great player. Like his speed is elite. Brassard does not have elite speed. And I just think this is a good deal for the Rangers. I think this deal gets them out from under salary-wise, but still gives them a top 6 player.
Yeah, but back-to-back seasons, Brassard last year, 27 goals, 31 assists, 58 points, plus 12. Year before, 19 goals, 41 assists, 60 points. Who's their number line center now? Is Stepan their number one center?
That was their top line center.
Yeah, Stepan's their number 1, and probably Zibanejad is their number 2. Brassard was making $5 million the next 3 years,
right?
And Zibanejad was making significantly less, I believe.
Like I said, I think Brassard reached his ceiling with those numbers, and I think the Rangers knew that. And I think, look, Zibanejad has been coming on, and he's a much younger player. I
like Zibanejad. I do. I just really like this deal for Ottawa right now.
Yeah, okay. $2.62 million for Zibanejad this year. Then he's an RFA. So, Russ, does this mean that they're going to give that money to Kreider? Are they going to lock Kreider up long term?
Yeah, this is definitely pointing towards that. Yes.
Wow. This is something. I mean, this is a big trade.
July 18th, and we got deals. Nice.
Yeah. No, we heard. We've been talking to people for a while now that the trades were coming. And we weren't expecting.
I don't want to take anything. Actually, I don't want to take anything away from Zibanejad. I like his potential. I think he's coming on strong, like Russ said. Just as the right now factor, if I'm Ottawa plugging Brassard into a first line center role, I'm pretty happy.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, Zach, and I agree, we're waiting for trades, but most of them seem to be waiting for the defensive domino. Now, we weren't expecting this is a forward for forward deal, so we're still waiting for Shattenkirk. We're still waiting for Trouba and a few others. Dumba. I mean, it's either contract or it's trade. And we're still waiting for that domino to fall. And guys like Chris Russell are sort of hanging out there. And as Kevin said, he may be the Franzen guy in this market.
I think you're right, and I think he's already proven that he is. At this point, I'm just updating my blog with this because I wanted to do that real fast. But we're gonna do one other thing, and then we'll talk more about this trade. I mean, we think this is we'll definitely get into more of this trade, but we only have 10 minutes left. I wanted to get into this concept that we're going to start today, which is the best number 1 pick of all time. And one of the the best hockey player to wear number 1 of all time. Sorry, getting texts like crazy right now about this trade. Okay, so, I'm a big fan of goalies, and obviously this is a goalie number.
Right.
So we're going to have a good debate on this one, I think. And but before we do, someone pointed out to me, I got a text that, there was a better 0-0 than Marty Biron.
Yeah, I was thinking there was another 00 somewhere.
And you should know this one, Russ. This is a Ranger.
Yeah, I was thinking. Go ahead. I can't think of it this time.
John Davidson.
Yeah,
Yes.
Davidson went 0-0. That's right.
Yeah, pretty funny. And Neil Sheehy actually wore -0
But to be honest,
on Hartford.
Ranger fans aren't going to like this.
Wow.
Broussard was a better goalie than Davidson, except for the '79 season. I mean, that's the reality. I mean, John Davidson was the big. Well, listen, John Davidson was that big goalie with the big 5-hole that took him a while to sort of find his way. I'd say for 2-3 years he was a top flight goalie. I actually think Baron's a better goalie.
I thought you were gonna go down the road, Russ, of saying Steve Baker was a better goaltender.
Not Steve Baker, no.
No, not easy. So I mean, there are so many. Do you want to start with this one, Russ, as far as who you think? We'll let you start today.
Yeah, I struggled because there's so many good guys, and the guy that I picked didn't win a cup with the Rangers, but I picked Gump Worsley because he won 4 cups with the Canadiens. He was a big personality. He played for a lot of teams, but yet everybody loves Gump Worsley. I've never heard a bad word uttered about this guy. Tremendous career. Great quotes. Like, if you're a writer, you loved Gump Worsley. You go back and look at his quotes, and they're the best. And so I picked Gump Worsley.
Gump Worsley. Good one. Mike, what do you have?
Well, I picked Jacques Plante, not only because he was a phenomenal goaltender with the Canadiens as a younger player, but as a 40-year-old, after I think he took 3 years off, comes back with St. Louis in expansion in '68, has a couple great years with them, and then had statistically what has been called one of the best years in the history of the NHL as a Maple Leaf. I think it was 1970. He had a 1.88 goals against in 40 games. So he was great into his 40s. So he just beat out Glenn Hall, but they were both great.
Wow. Okay. Mine. Neither of you guys have gotten yet. Dan, what are your thoughts on this one? What we got? Sorry, crazy. Unplug Dan. Unplug in.
Okay. Go to Jillian.
That voice modulator. This could be a look into Dan's future if he's a heavy smoker. I don't know.
Is it my turn? Am I going?
Go ahead, Jillian. Give it a shot.
I mean, mine's this was suggested to me earlier today, and I did a little research, and I found that this is the only one for me, which is Bernie Parent. It's the only one that I would really have any attachment to, also, given that I'm from Philly. So there was some other ones out there, but I had to go with Bernie Parent. I mean,
great pick.
He signed. When I was a season ticket holder, he signed a book for me. So that's my. He has a special place in my heart because it was my first year as a season ticket holder.
But Bernie has signed like a bazillion autographs.
I don't care. Mine was special.
Okay.
Wow. Okay, can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
No, I think that. I mean, Bernie is the reason I got. There were 2 number ones, and Bernie was one of them, and Gilles Gilbert was another that I was like that turned me into a goalie and a hockey fan as a kid. So it's hard. Bernie's not my pick or Gilles Gilbert, but. You can't go wrong with. I mean, really, the Flyers' 2 Stanley Cups are not because they were the Broad Street Bullies, or not because they had Bobby Clark. It's because they had Bernie Parent.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with anyone we've named so far. Personally, from my experience growing up as a kid, I always saw number 1 associated to Mike Liut when he was playing for the Whalers.
Yeah.
But for me, number 1 is associated with Terry Sawchuk. Before there was Marty Barone, before there was Patrick Waugh, there was Terry Sawchuk. So for me, that's who I'm going with.
You stole mine, man.
Sorry.
Yeah. That's.
Thunder.
I'll go with one more. Okay, I got a different one.
Well, let me just say this. I didn't pick Sawchuk for one reason. He did wear different numbers later in his career. He was one.
Yeah. He wore one for a long time, though.
He was 1 for Detroit, but then when he went to Toronto, when he went to L.A. and the Rangers, I think he was 30 or 29.
He was 30, yeah.
Yeah,
so when he came to Toronto, Johnny Bauer, who's another good number 1, was on Toronto.
And Leaf fans will probably have something against me because I didn't pick the guy who won their last 4 Stanley Cups. But if you look at their career, Plante his statistics were much better than Johnny Bauer's.
Yeah. All right, mine. I'm going to go a little bit off the board here and go. I mean, if the trophy's named after you.
Yeah.
That was my other one, That was my other one.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, to me, this is the Vezina trophy. So this is the Vezina. I'm giving this to George Vezina, who was number 1, and kind of defined the idea of goalies being number 1 in a lot of ways. So just to me, there's other great ones. Eddie Jockman's another one.
Oh yeah, I loved Eddie Jockman, but I just
Glenn Hall.
Even with the guy who won 4 cups, I did in pretty short time.
Donnie Edwards.
Right. I love Liute. Who was number one? Was Billy Smith was 30, right?
Oh, Chico was
Smith
one in the Islanders.
Chico was one.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Like I say,
who were number 1 in Boston?
Gilles Gilbert. Gilbert was the one I think of. Who was?
I think also Timmy Thompson.
Yeah, Roger Crozier wore 1 in Buffalo. Let's see.
There is another one too. Hold on.
Mario Lessard wore number 1, I think, in L.A.
Yeah. So, I mean, if any of you guys think of anything else, you can email it to me. But I think we got pretty much the solid ones there. What we're gonna do is I'm gonna put this up as a poll on my blog later today. Have you guys answer it. We'll tell you who the winner is tomorrow based on you, and then we'll debate it some more. And then we'll get into number 2 tomorrow as well, which is a lot more complicated than number 1. Number 1 is is obviously goalies.
Easy for me. 2, I could do 2 in a second.
Yeah, I know who 2 would be for you, but I think and you know
that'd probably be my choice too. So yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be hard, but it's hard to come up there. I've got 5 number 2s.
I know who you're taking, Nick.
No, maybe, but no.
I know who your number 2 is because it might be mine too.
Ed Van Imp.
He's not the guy who played for Harvard and Philly. That's not my number 2.
There's 2 other guys though that are worth mentioning for number 1s. Emile Francis, who I'm friends with. I didn't need to pick.
Yes, the cat.
The cat was a number 1, and Chuck Rayner, who was a heck of a goalie. I mean, just another guy who lost. He was 51 and 53, so he just lost anyhow. So never mind.
So good stuff as always, guys. Thanks so much for watching the show. Remember, the way you can help us out is by going to patreon.com/hockey and help support the show. Last week we had a really fun show on Friday. After we had a Patreon-only members show, we had a couple dozen people in there hanging out, watching us. And then we had 4 or 5 of them come on the show and actually chat with us, which was great. We're going to do that again on Friday. So it's a fun thing to do. $5 a month is not a lot. It helps us immensely, like you wouldn't imagine.
Yeah, it was free beer. It was free hors d'oeuvres. It was great.
Right. It really was. And Mike promised if we get to a certain number, he'll stop doing sound effects. So remember that too.
I like that. Yes, if someone donates, like someone makes a $20 donation, the soundboard goes away from Mike.
That's right. I like that idea too.
No, for a month, not forever.
That's fine.
You gotta cold turkey, man. You gotta walk.
Every month, right?
You gotta walk away, cold turkey. You just gotta step away from the soundboard. Step away from the soundboard.
The impossible dream.
Right. So we'll be writing more about the Brassard trade. It's a really interesting one for sure. I like the idea of Ottawa kind of stepping up in this way to make a move. I think that both players are very good, and I think that Zibanejad will be a great Ranger.
Last thing here, Renaud Lavoie from TVA Sports reports that the reason why the deal didn't happen, because they've been talking for a couple weeks, is that Brassard had a $2 million bonus due to him on July 15th. Okay. So that's the reason that the deal waited this long.
Here's the thing, too, and I can see why Ottawa wouldn't pay that. The last thing is, I see some Ranger fans are thinking that this is like the Rangers tanking. This is not the Rangers tanking.
No. That's crazy. It's crazy. Remember, guys, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you tomorrow.